Now, y'all know I love talking about Smash. But you know what I love even more than talking about Smash? Talking about Smash with two of my favorite people to talk about Smash with. And that is why I'm joined today by my good friend, Daniel Alba, our amazing GVG art director, and my equally good friend, Shesez of Boundary Break. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you both doing?
Doing good. How are you, Ash? How's it going?
Well, as you can hear me, I'm quite excited, and I'm excited to be here hosting this discussion and getting a chance to talk about Smash. It isn't every day these days that we get new comments from Sakurai to really kind of dig into and wax poetic on, and so I was like, Daniel, we need to do this, and I'm like, who else can I pull in? Oh my god, I haven't talked about Smash with Shesez in way too long. Let's get that man in here, and I'm so glad you both could make it.
Well, thank you. It's definitely not your fault, Ash. It's Sakurai's fault. He hasn't given us anything to work with. So thank you, Mr. Sakurai, and thank you, Ash, and everybody for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, we're happy to have you here, man. And yeah, so of course we are here due to Sakurai's recent comments in one of the latest videos posted on his own YouTube channel talking about the development team of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And he said a couple of things that were a little bit, I think, provocative and interesting. They got people buzzing, including us here. And the main thing I think was interesting, period, was that he just kind of so directly talked about the future of Smash, just kind of casually dropping, well, you know, Smash is one of Nintendo's biggest series, so it goes to follow there's going to be another one. And it's like, okay, yeah, but you haven't really ever said it quite like that so directly before. But what's even more interesting was, you know, he was relating his experience about Iwata, putting him at the center of Smash Bros. Brawl's development team, and Iwata kind of saying, actually it was Eiji Aonuma kind of saying, you know, without Sakurai, there really probably isn't any Smash. And it turns out Sakurai kind of agrees that he can't quite see Smash without him at the helm as it exists right now. And that's kind of where I want to start. I've seen some people talking about, well, that's a little bit arrogant of him. There's probably some other people who could do it. And others who are like, nah, he's right. We can't imagine anyone else, doing this. So she says, I want to start with you, man. How do you feel about Sakurai saying he can't see Smash without him? Do you think the series can exist without him? Would you want it to? Kind of got us into your thoughts here, man.
I certainly think it could exist without him, but it's all a matter of, are they taking the right measurements to make that happen? I think that, yeah, it's almost like a setup for failure if you just kind of throw someone into a project like that and you don't know what you're doing or what it takes to get it launched in the right direction at the right time. If I recall correctly, the secret recipe to Sakurai getting these games on a good schedule is that he spends a lot of time at home before any of the projects even get off the ground and does sketchbooks of like all the moves and what characters he would want and everything. So a lot of planning stage stuff gets figured out well ahead of a greenlit project. So I imagine that it's information like that would have to be passed down to a new director, an equally passionate director, one that is also closely involved with the technical side of Super Smash Bros. I think it's possible, but I also think there might be validity to the fact that if you throw in someone who's not Sakurai at this point in time, there is a solid chance that you'll get a lesser product as a result for that.
Totally fair enough. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, you know, I remember in that video, it was mentioned Satoru Iwata was telling Sakurai, almost threatening, and saying, if you're not involved in this project, what we're going to pretty much do is take the characters from Melee and just port them into Brawl without much of a change. And Sakurai is like, that's not really a new game then. There's no iteration in that sense. And so, just a really rare situation of getting a now technically indie studio, their own personal studio coming in, hiring all these people to that Sakurai pretty much handpicked to have at the helm of Smash Bros. Brawl. And I think it can, as she said, it definitely can exist without Sakurai, but it's just wouldn't be entirely the same. There's a level of hands-on that he does, which no other director can really accomplish, with getting all these different references, all this different, all these, just getting all the characters just right, or mostly right, characters, stages, pulling all this in and making it all cohesively work in one working system and game that they all look like they naturally fit and belong with each other. And yeah, it's it's hard to imagine it without him. He might have a protege at this point. We just might not know about it, because that's an insurmountable amount of pressure to say like, oh, this person is going to take my place going forward with the series. And the series is somewhere kind of in an unknown spot. We don't know if the next game in Smash 6 will be iterative from Ultimate in some way, or just be a complete reboot. And if it is like a reboot, having a new director kind of take control of that, they're going to get even more scrutinized for like the changes that it is, that it's not like Ultimate but bigger or different even.
Right. Well, this isn't the way I wanted people to find out about my resignation from GVG, but as it turns out, I am that protege. He actually hired me to take over the series. So,
That's solid choice.
Breaking news.
Oh, man.
But no, I generally, my thoughts kind of fall generally in line with both of you. I think that given like a reboot, I think there's maybe more of an argument that could be made for Smash continuing on without him. And at some point, it's going to have to, because Smash is going to keep on going and going and going. And, Sakurai is getting older. He's getting up there in years. Who knows how much longer he even wants to do this. I mean, there was, he was kind of saying, I'm not sure I even want to do Smash again for a while. And it turns out this man is like the, Nintendo-associated Hideo Kojima. And he says that over and over again, but then he's always inevitably seemingly pulled back in to work on this same series yet again. And I have to agree, especially with what I particularly personally value and love so much about Smash. I don't know that there's anyone else out there at present who I would trust to take the reins of the series, because as you were saying, Daniel, the particular feel of the characters, the way they're all translated from their source games into Smash so lovingly and in such detail, it's just hard to imagine someone else out there having that same kind of specific attention to detail and the skill that Sakurai clearly has in implementing those things that fans love about each character. And of course, then that extends to so much of the other fan-focused content in Smash as well, whether it's the stages and all the references in those, and the stages and the backgrounds, or all the music. God, this is a game with over 1,000 tracks of music from across the entire series, including new music in Ultimate. All the different, the trophies, and there are no trophies in Ultimate, but still, the idea of it, the trophies, the spirits, there's so much fan-focused content here that, Sakurai's he is the gaming nerd to end all gaming nerds, and that's what I love about him most. And it is hard to imagine Smash without him, and I do think that the whole thing was hilarious about Iwata essentially threatening him, saying, it's just going to be Melee and a new game. Melee characters in a new game if you don't come in and kind of help us make this. And he had to turn down other obligations he had already had going in order to drop everything and make Brawl, with Nintendo. So that's obviously, dedication. And he even said in his video that he still feels bad to this very day about the people that he had to the projects he had to pull out of. But yeah, so I guess touching on the idea of a reboot then, would you guys like to see Smash continue on the way it is with Sakurai at the helm, or are you kind of, I know like our good friend Steve, he is very much of the idea that he's done with Smash as it currently is. He wants to see it fully rebooted, up in the T-table, completely start everything from scratch, but I'm not so sure. And Daniel, why don't you start us off here, man? Do you want a reboot, or do you kind of want to see Sakurai keep taking the current idea and iteration of Smash even further?
It's hard to imagine Smash just without the way that it has been, even since the 64 days. We've been with this series for like 25 years at this point, and to deviate from that into a reboot would be very tricky. That's one of the reasons why I want Sakurai to be at the helm, because I'm sure if he has a team that can reimagine this series in a certain way, that they would be able to handle that. And I do kind of want to see at least some characters being completely rebooted, refreshed. Like some of our more iconic characters, some of the most iconic characters in gaming have kind of an underwhelming moveset at this point, like Mario and Sonic. Yeah. They can completely be rehauled at this point with their 25 or 15-year-old movesets at this point. But that's a tricky question, because like what can you do beyond what Ultimate has done? Like, I think that's really refined for a lot of people. That's really refined the formula at this point, and it's like to kind of throw that away and completely start fresh is a very tricky thing to do. And people are going to speak out about it. There's going to be people that would probably enjoy a reboot, people that are going to just be like, why is this happening? Go back. If it's not broke, don't fix it, you know? But at the same time, it's like, it's the perfect time to do it, because you're not going to have this entire roster in the next game either. So kind of trimming that down and having everybody kind of just refresh in that sort of way just seems like the most logical decision at this point, in my opinion anyways. What do you think?
Me personally, I think that if Sakurai can get back on board, we should just keep adding on to, and maybe getting more features and stuff like that, constantly make the definitive Smash Brothers experience. If we can't get Sakurai, I personally would be interested in just doing a full reboot, but I also can see that being a catastrophic failure, because general audiences might not be able to comprehend the idea of having to start completely from scratch and then having a smaller roster as a result of that. So one of the solutions I would think of is that right now, as it stands, this is the only all-encompassing Nintendo collaborative project that exists on a Nintendo console. And so what is to say that if Sakurai leaves, why don't they just take that concept and do maybe an all new genre? And if that way, if you don't have to ruin or make a lesser product of Smash Brothers the fighting game, you can just continuously port that, sort of like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe style, but you can refocus on some new idea, like maybe like an RPG that does like a whole collaboration of Nintendo characters and third-party characters and stuff like that, or an action RPG or something that basically says, like, we're not asking you to directly compare this to Smash Brothers of old. Instead, here's a new collaborative effort that has its own vision and its own director, and you can judge it for its own merits.
Yeah, I do believe that if Smash is going to continue in its current form, Sakurai obviously needs to be involved, and I don't necessarily think that he should, or that the, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, that you shouldn't necessarily deviate from what makes Smash Smash. However, I hear you, she says, like, there isn't any reason that a new director can't take on something that's different from what Smash is known for. The thing is, I don't know if I'd want it to be known as Smash. Like, a pretty popular idea seems to have been the idea of Smash being turned into a 3D platform fighter, kind of like Power Stone. I think that sounds like a really cool idea. But is that still Smash, then? Is that really still Super Smash Brothers? Because Smash not only is what this game is that we've been playing for years and years, it's not that we only know it as that. Smash also invented the 2D platform fighter genre as we know it. So if it's not a 2D platform fighter, is it really Smash? And so I do think there's absolutely room for both. Definitely. I'd love to see Smash continue as the 2D platforming fighter series it is, alongside something new that is a collaboration between so many different Nintendo IPs. I mean, God, we've been talking about Nintendo Kart forever. Maybe Mario Kart 9 becomes Smash Kart, and it just pulls everybody in from every Nintendo franchise into a kart racing game. I'd love that. But yeah, I also love the idea that you just said, she says, of an action RPG or an RPG. But I don't know that that's still Smash necessarily. And that's where the naming and the branding gets tricky. But, Daniel, you also touched on this. It's so hard to imagine where they go. I mean, we all knew that a new Smash was coming at some point before Sakurai even said what he did in his recent video. But it's just so hard to envision where Smash goes in its current form from here, because Smash Ultimate truly is Ultimate. It's got 87 fighters, 126 or something stages. Like, I don't envy the people on the marketing team for Smash 6, because inevitably, people are going to flip and riot and melt down when they realize that Ultimate's roster isn't returning. And even though Sakurai, he's warned us about this multiple times, he said, Ultimate is a one-time thing. It is a one-time miracle. Don't reasonably expect this to keep happening in the future. And so it seems almost inevitable that the next Smash's roster is going to see major, major cuts, especially on the third-party character side, I would say. But then where do you make up for that? Where do you either innovate or level up the rest of the game in such a way that the roster cuts don't matter? Because for whatever reason, we've seen it happen with games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, where new games in the series can launch with less characters than the previous iteration, But Smash has like this particular indelible focus on the number of characters in the roster, and for some reason that matters more, I think, in Smash than other fighting games. So Street Fighter 6, for example, can get away with launching with 18 characters when Street Fighter 5 ended with, like, I don't know, 30, 32, can't remember exactly how many. Smash, I don't think is going to get that same pass, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see where Sakurai takes things from here, assuming he remains involved, and it sounds like he is, and I do think that's the best thing for the franchise as it currently exists. Now, one question I want to pose to both of you is I've seen some people, on the internet, opinions on the internet, everyone has one, express the idea that this is Nintendo's chance to kind of clean house and just bring it back in, bring the focus back into just first-party characters, that the third-party characters, the guests, have gotten out of hand. It's become more about the third parties than it has about Nintendo's own stable of characters. Shesez, do you agree with that? Do you want third parties to return? Do you want to see them maybe lessened? How are you feeling about that?
I love third-party characters. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
like, it's
of course.
It's so exciting. I mean, Sora and Smash, if anybody had less than an excited reaction to that, then I don't know what soul you have, but I'm going to guess you have none.
None.
So of course I want third-party characters to come back, and I don't know. I suppose I could see that person's opinion on that, like maybe introducing more obscure first-party Nintendo characters as a result of losing out on third-party. But no, I think third-party is a really fun, exciting way of spicing up the franchise, and I would hate to see that happen. But at the same time, too, there's a lot of IP juggling and publisher juggling and handshaking and all that. So I do understand the idea of having to scale it back just out of necessity, but I certainly wouldn't want that to be the case. So as far as that all goes, if it's a compromise that needs to be made, sure, make up for it in other ways, like with more obscure first-party characters, and heck, bring back a really content-rich story mode again. That would be really cool. I did have a good time with that, playing that with a buddy of mine, and I would love to see that happen again, and maybe have the characters have speaking roles in their respective games have more of a speaking role. Like, that would be a cool way to see it evolve in some way, as well as just taking the feedback that people seem to have had with Subspace Emissary. But yeah, I mean, shoot. No, I mean, out of a preference, of course I want to keep third-party characters. There's still some that I still want to see to this day that haven't been in Smash yet.
Big same. I mean, John unfortunately couldn't be here for this discussion, but he did tell me yesterday in a DM that it's time for Rayman to get his little hands on Mega Man, which I'm not sure I agree with that yet, but or maybe ever. But I digress. Daniel, I assume, considering one of your mains is a third-party character, being Pac-Man, that you feel the same way. But do you have any thoughts on this that you want to expand on?
Don't get rid of them. What do you?
I agree. I agree. I'm just saying, people on the internet out there have some opinions.
Oh yeah, no, that's for them, not for you.
Okay.
Like, Smash Brothers has developed itself into this game that is just a celebration of not just Nintendo. It's become a celebration of video games as a whole. And I've gotten into so many games because of this. Early on, from like Metroid and Earthbound and Xenoblade, but even with the third parties like Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, those series I don't think I would have gotten into properly if it wasn't for games like Smash Brothers. This is the ultimate advertisement. This is the perfect advertisement for any video game that's in here. I know people that have gotten into Kingdom Hearts. They've gotten into Fatal Fury because of the DLC in Smash Brothers Ultimate. It is really just an entire celebration of video games, and I think extending that, like, of course the core roster is going to be Nintendo, but having guest characters as third party, I mean, I think that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, people who want to just purify it to just be Nintendo only probably don't play any other games besides Nintendo console only.
Right.
But I mean, that's generalizing, but still, I don't think the Smash Brothers IP would have the same identity if it doesn't have that invitation extended to other parties, from like Atlas, Konami, Koei Tecmo. It's just everybody, you know.
I think that, like, the idea that anybody can be in a Smash Brothers game, that's what makes all the announcements so exciting. because it really expands your imagination to who could be in the game at this point. So to kind of scale it back to first party only stifles people's hopes and dreams and imaginations for that. So on top of the fact that it's just straight up cool to have, you know, I'm trying to think, Banjo-Kazooie in Super Smash Brothers. Yeah. It's also the hopes and dreams of wishing one day that he would be there that keeps all of this so exciting. So why would anybody want to take that away? I can't even imagine.
I don't get it either. It's just it's a take that I've seen, a particularly spicy one. I certainly don't agree with it. I mean, look, you guys know how important Mega Man and Sora and Smash have been to me. And although I'm a little scared because, you know, I think Sonic and Pac-Man are probably safe, and I think Mega Man would be safe if more people played him. But I don't know if he's safe because so few people actually play him as he exists in the game right now, because he's a very hard character to learn, and he doesn't play like any other character. So I'm a little worried that Mega Man might be on the chopping block, and I don't know if it's worse to have loved and lost in this case, or have never loved at all. I don't know if it's going to be even worse after having Mega Man and Smash for the past decade to possibly lose him. I don't know. It's something that keeps me up at night because I'm a giant nerd. But yeah, I think certainly overhauling some particularly crusty movesets is definitely in order, and that may help kind of take the sting out of some of the inevitable roster cuts. I mean, Mario, I love you, man, but that cape has got to be crusty and old and in serious need of washing right now, because that was from Super Mario World. I mean, Mario's got to use some stuff from his later games. Same thing with Samus. Look at Samus with her Aeon abilities and Samus Returns and then Metroid Dread. There's so much cool stuff that she can do now that isn't just shooting missiles and charge beams and dropping bombs. She can do so many cool things.
She can do a physical counter now, and that can actually be reflect and everything. There's so many imaginative ways you can do this. Yeah, just with Metroid Dread and Samus Returns, there's so much you can just pull from her most recent titles to refresh the moveset. Every character, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, and I think if you go far enough in overhauling some of the veterans' movesets, particularly the original 12 from the Smash 64, I think that there's a way that you can make those characters feel fresh and exciting and new again, to the point where you can have the daily website updates, and you have, you know, one of the updates is, hey, Captain Falcon's returning to the fray, but he's got all these new moves. He looks a bit different. He looks refreshed. That could feel really exciting again, just like any of the other veterans. Hey, here's Pikachu. Of course he knew Pikachu was going to be in the game, but look at all the cool new stuff Pikachu has. He plays differently, or at least differently enough. So I do think that there is a level of retooling here that could happen with veterans who have been in, you know, 2, 3, or 4 of these games, or all 5 of these games by now, and make them feel fresh and exciting again. But they're going to have to figure something out, because you and I, all 3 of us here, know that the Smash fan base is particularly hard to please, finicky. I don't know what the right word is. Very vocal.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, roster size and characters that make the cut and wasted slots and all that. So I definitely don't feel any envy for the marketing team that's going to have to work on this game, because it's going to be a minefield when the cuts start happening and everything starts coalescing. It's going to be really fascinating to see as Smash fans, I think, just to kind of see how this all works out. But I know us. We could talk about Sakurai's comments on anything. Probably the clouds in the sky for hours and hours. But we do need to wrap up here at some point. But before we do, I want to take things in a slightly different direction, and that is I want to go roundtable style really quickly and find out from both of you what one thing. I know there are plenty of things you'd like to see, but if you could choose one thing that you'd like to see happen in Smash 6, what would that be? I'm going to challenge you a little bit. These things cannot include better online play, because yes, we all know we want Smash to have better online play. That is a given. So that doesn't count. And also, you can't say the return of Ultimate's roster plus more, because yes, obviously all 3 of us here want that. I think most people want that, but it's probably not going to happen regardless, based on what Sakurai has said. So absent those 2 things, what would you like to see most in Smash 6? And Daniel, let's start with you, man.
Oh boy, you're going to start with me, huh?
Yep.
What do I want to see most in Smash 6? I wish I had a little more time to think about this question beforehand.
It's okay if you don't know. We can go on over to Shesez first if you're not quite ready yet.
Do you have one already, Ash? Is that something that you've been thinking about?
I actually do. I can up in the tea table here and go first if you guys want.
It's up to you.
Sure, why not? Sure, I'll go for it. So, there was a bit of a footnote in Sakurai's, I think it was his final column in Famitsu, talking about some of the mechanics that didn't make it into Smash Ultimate, and one of them always stood out to me as being potentially very interesting, and that is the idea of mid-air smash attacks. I think something like a brand new mechanic like mid-air smashes could go a long way toward making the next Smash's gameplay feel refreshed in a way that maybe just keeping the same mechanics but changing the speed and the physics might not. Like, just add a brand new mechanic. And he talked about how they tried to implement mid-air smash attacks in Ultimate, but it couldn't quite happen. He mentioned that it just became a little too complicated, and they couldn't figure out how best to implement that without it feeling too cumbersome. Revisit that idea. I think the idea of having more aerial options is really exciting. Smash, as we all know, is a game that when you play it at a high level, or even a reasonably high level, you're spending most of your time in the air. Air game is so important in Smash, so expand that air game. Make it possible to do something else in the air that expand your range of options when you're fighting in the air. Of course, you've got your directionals, and I don't think those should go away. You've got your air specials. But yeah, why not do air smash attacks? As long as you can make it happen in a way that makes sense with the controls, that doesn't complicate things too much, because I think one of the core appeal of Smash, one of the things that's most appealing, is how simplified the controls are compared to some other fighting games. I think that would be really exciting, and given that air game is so important in Smash, I think the addition of mid-air exclusive Smash attacks could really shake things up in a foundational way, and maybe go a long way toward making Smash 6 feel really refreshed in a gameplay sense too, even if it is ultimately just more Smash. So that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, do you feel like you're... Oh, thank you very much. Daniel, do you feel like you're ready now, or do you want to...
I feel like there's a bit of layers to this one, because
okay.
It's kind of like adding on stuff from previous Smash games, but hear me out. With Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS, you were able to unlock more variations of your movesets. You could do variations and such. Some of them were just the same attack, but just kind of changed. Like Mario had a bigger fireball, or had a fireball that just shot across. It'd be cool if they could eventually have movesets where they're all more like Palutena's instead, where they're actually different variations of their moves instead. Instead of Mario just shooting a fireball, it could be what's just something like... It could be like the cape, but he does the little twirl or something. Like he does the spin attack instead, and not just, he doesn't just flap it. He'll do like a whole twirl, and just moves that are distinctively different from each other, basically. And it'd be cool if in some way, this is kind of inspired by Tails actually, you could equip different movesets mid-fight. Okay. So like your up, down, left, right, neutral, B specials can be changed on the fly with another set that you have with you instead. And then you can kind of just swap between there, and just to give more personality to these characters at the same time, to just kind of reference more of their overall universe that they hail from. And it also kind of borrows from... I was kind of inspired by the World Tour in Street Fighter 6, because from there you can kind of customize your character to have movesets from other characters as well. So if there's like no Miis in this game, maybe your World Tour in this game can be a Mii you create, and you can just like customize their movesets to be from different characters, all kind of a big old amalgamation of one character instead. Just like as a different way to as a different take of the single player campaign in that sort of game. I guess I'm kind of leaning into two different things, but that's pretty much the basis. It's just the moveset. Just kind of have multiple movesets that you can kind of switch around, and of course you'd have to like unlock them. So that'd be, or maybe not. I don't know. It depends how much they want to have you go through to have like a basis for an even playing field for everybody in like competitive play. But I don't know. That's just something I've been kind of throwing around in my head.
I like it. I wonder if unlocking them or having to unlock them would be a good idea, though, only because I feel like having to unlock the custom moves in Smash 4 was one of the things that kind of led to them not really being ever fully embraced by the communities. She says you had a visceral reaction to that. What are you thinking, man?
Oh, did I? Yeah, I mean, sadly, I don't think it would be adopted by the competitive community for exactly what you just said, Ash.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all for casual fun too, and so if I can add more personality to these characters and have more moves and stuff like that, I think that's a fun idea. I would definitely have a good time unlocking all those moves and seeing which ones. Like, just remembering the thrill of seeing a CD pop up in Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Oh, yeah.
And instead converting that to like a new move and wondering what new move you're going to pick up, I think that would be a ton of fun for sure.
I mean, personally, I love, kind of the direction you're going, Daniel. I do worry about your physical safety, because I think that sound I hear is the sound of millions of Pyra and Myth remains marching on your house right now, because you're basically taking the Aegis switching power from them, and essentially it sounds like giving it to everybody. Personally, I like that idea, but where I thought you were going with it was that you choose a loadout before you go into the match, and then you use that loadout during the match, not necessarily switching loadouts in the middle of one, and that's even more interesting. And I feel like there's something that could work here, because so many other fighting games, Street Fighter, SNK versus Capcom, whatever, Mortal Kombat, they have there are multiple supers you can pick, like Third Strike. There are multiple super combos you can pick from for your character before you start a match. Same thing with like Capcom versus SNK 2 with the whole, Street Fighter Alpha 3 with the whole ism, A-ism, and V-ism, and I think it's X-ism, the different styles you can choose for each character before you play a match. I like that idea, and it may be going a little bit too much against Smash's core focus on simplicity, and that might be an issue, but at the same time, I like the idea that you can mix and match a character's moves, Palutena style, at least before you go into a match. During a match, that sounds cool. People might have more of an issue with that, but it would really make each character feel a lot more robust in terms of what they can do. And imagine the competitive ceiling in terms of, if these moves are all considered viable and you can mix and match these moves before a match, maybe you don't have to unlock them. Maybe just, you got Mario, here are his moves that you can switch out, and they're all competitively viable, and that means you not only have to learn your character and be the best with them, but you also have to, figure out the best combination of moves that you want to roll with and take into a match. I think that could really shake up the competitive scene in a really fun way.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it should be like just a loadout or switching around, but that's also just a way to kind of keep the legacy of the original characters' specials while also adding more onto it. So I don't know, just a way to do that.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, was it your original idea to do it in game, like on the fly, like Sheik style or whatever, or did you mean for it to be like a loadout and a profile or something like that?
Yeah, like I guess you have your profile, or like before you start a match, you have either the default, or your profile would have your name would have the loadout already set there for that character.
Gotcha. Because I'm thinking, like, honestly, expanding upon that idea, just what Ash just said, like if there's like a mode where you can have 2 move sets instead of 1, and like you press down B to get the alternate move set in mid battle, I could definitely see that working itself into a competitive scene. Like, as long as like it's not fully customizable, it's just you assemble moves from the second loadout, and then you eventually have a character with 2 different move sets depending on which form you have, I guess. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah,
I originally thought it could be like, how, or if you're using GameCube controller, X and Y are both jump. Just assign one button to be the switch, the one you don't use to have the loadout. So then you have the whole full 4 specials. But I don't know. It's obviously a working idea that probably won't happen. So
hey, but it's fun to speculate. It's almost like the Smash version of stance switching, I guess, right?
I think so. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah, I personally think that sounds really cool. Although, if this happened, it's only fair, just to be canon accurate. It's only fair if Mega Man gets access to every single Robot Master weapon from 1 through 11.
I absolutely knew this was going to come up, because all of his specials essentially were just different abilities from his games as well, weren't they?
Exactly. And I'm just trying to think like Sakurai here. Canon accuracy is so important. It's not my fault Mega Man has like 100 weapons. Not my fault. Not my fault.
Just want to add one little thing that's always annoyed me about Mega Man and Smash. The character does blink, and yet in Smash Brothers he does not. He never blinks.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'm also of the mind that like I prefer when Mega Man has a voice. He has a voice in most of the time, and I get why he didn't, because he was mirroring the NES sprite. But I kind of wish Mega Man had his voice clips and stuff, as long as it sounded like Rockman and not like the I'm a teenager thing that they do for like
no.
Mega Man EXE in the dub. Don't do that. He's supposed to sound like a kid. Anyway, I digress. Don't get me talking about Mega Man and Smash. We'll be here forever. We'll be here for way too long.
Fair enough.
So she says, what's your big grand idea to see in Smash 6, man, that you really want to see happen?
I'm going to blow your socks off. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Chrono in Smash.
Oh, why would you go there?
Okay, so...
I mean, yeah, please. Yes,
yeah.
please.
I would buy 6 copies if that happened, but...
Absolutely.
I guess I have a pretty simple answer. I would just like to see another story mode come back to Smash Brothers. I really had a good time with it. As far as single player content goes, nothing to me has ever compared to Subspace Emissary. So if we could see a one-up of that, I would love to see that. Little small tweaks or something else too. You mentioned earlier, Dan, about using the X or Y button for this idea that you had. For me, I have a little bit of a hard time. I guess this is a skill issue, but for all the years, one of the things that's always been a little difficult for me is the tilt attacks. And if there was just a way to assign that to a button instead of having to choose between which one the C-stick does, I would love that. Like if you hold down like Y or something and then you press left, right, up, or down with the analog stick and it just does the tilt attack for you.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would totally go for that. And sadly, I don't have anything grandiose, but like that's where I fall in terms of things I'd love to see in the next Smash.
Yeah.
I mean, Chrono and Smash is plenty grandiose already, man. You already hit the grandiose point long ago. But as someone else who also has a little bit of trouble doing tilts, did have trouble doing tilts until he just assigned tilts to one of the C-sticks or the C-stick. I agree. I'm a dirty tap jumper. I know most people aren't. They're like, how can you call yourself reasonably good at Smash if you tap jump? And I tried to relearn it, not tap jumping, and I've never been able to do that. So I'm a tap jumper, and because of that, having an easier way to do tilts would be a game changer for me, and a way that's even easier than using the C-stick. So yeah, no, I hear you. And how did you feel about World of Light, given that that's also kind of a single player, kind of story based single player mode, but
it's too scaled back for my taste. There was only like 2 cutscenes in total or something like that, and it was nice to see the gang all lined up for something. But it was so much more gratuitous in Subspace Emissary, where you got to get a little bit of intimate time with each character that was in the roster, and it would be nice to see something like that again. Because there wasn't enough character-to-character interactions, which is what was an absolute joy in that mode. Just to see like how King Dedede reacts to Luigi, or Ness and Lucas reacting to the Pokemon trainer. Like I loved that stuff. I'd love to see more of that.
Totally.
Yeah, the World of Light essentially was, for me, just a big expansion to the event matches in Melee, where they're all just like, here's a stipulation here, and just do that for the whole mode. They really front-loaded and showed off the only cutscene the whole time when they revealed World of Light, and that kind of annoyed me, because I thought we were going to see more cutscenes with voice acting and such, let's say, like they teased, but yeah, something more like Subspace Emissary with that level of interaction and love between the characters. That'd be great.
Agreed. I think it would be really, as you said, she says, I loved seeing the interactions between characters that would probably never get to interact in another game ever, and to bring that back and kind of see the qualities of each character shine through in their personality, interacting with these characters from different series and universes. I'd love to see that happen again. And I know Sakurai has made it clear that with the proliferation of cutscenes and stuff being leaked on the internet and posted on YouTube and such, it feels like maybe the effort isn't worth it. But I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it has to be that way. So I agree. I think a refreshed story mode a la Subspace Emissary, but pushing it even further, sounds really exciting. And God, I think between a refreshed, even better story mode, mid-air smash attacks, and swappable stance style special moves that you can swap out on the fly or before you begin a match, I think Sakurai's got it. I think we've made Smash 6 for him. He just needs to hire us, and done. We figured it out, everybody. Smash 6 has been solved. We did it. And then Chrono as well.
Yes, of course. There you go. Recipe for success.
Can you believe that Geno is going to be a legitimate call for this game now that we're getting Mario RPG made?
This has to be Gino's moment, finally. This has to finally be his moment.
The Square Enix character that comes in this game is just going to be Gino.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see the Square Boys returning personally. I think Cloud might be lucky to survive the cuts. But Sephiroth, Sora, and Hero, I think they're all gone. But Gino, I know. But Gino, I think, could be the next the next Square Boy to join the Smash roster, and that would be such a wonderful, wonderful moment for Gino fans, because they have been long suffering, and I would love nothing more than to see their patience finally get rewarded in Smash 6.
Absolutely.
Same.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, anything else you guys want to touch on Smash Sakurai-wise before we head out?
I mean, I can see where Sakurai is coming from. Like, he is an artist. He has a vision, and to see somebody else kind of come in and take that vision elsewhere, I can see why he would still want to come back and take the helm of Smash Brothers, because just as a personal thing for him, and as an artist myself, it's hard to see somebody else doing something the way that you pictured it doing. So if he is asked to come back, I'm sure he will be asked to come back at this point from Nintendo. I can't imagine him being completely hands off, at least overseeing for what happens. I can't either. So yeah, that's just my opinion for what the fate of the direction of the next Smash Brothers ends up being.
Yeah, as long as he wants to be working on it, I want him to work on it. Obviously, the man deserves not just a break, but he deserves to go and work on whatever he wants to, if he wants, because he's given us so many years, given Smash so many years of his life. But if he wants to be here, I want him to be here. Absolutely no question about that. Well, Daniel, she says, thank you so much. Thank you both for joining me today in this discussion.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Again, this was a ton of fun. It always is. Smash discussions are always the best with you guys. Seriously.
I was looking forward to this. I was like, when I found out I was going to be able to pull you in too, she says, I'm like, this is going to be the best trio to discuss this, the future of Smash with, and I'm so glad we were able to make it happen. Don't tell John or Steve or Derek I said that. That's strictly for your ears only, and the ears of everybody listening.
Yeah, they're original GVG roster, people. Like they don't want third-party characters in their videos.
Right.
They want to scale it back.
I didn't name drop Brandon. I'm gonna name drop him too. Don't tell him either. It's a secret to everybody. Yeah. So she says, it's not as though everybody watching doesn't probably already know where they can find you, but just in case, please do tell our audience where they can find you and about what you do on your channel, man.
Sure. Yeah. If you're on YouTube right now, just go into the search engine, type Boundary Break and your favorite video game. Chances are I've already covered it, and it's a show where we basically take the camera anywhere we want to try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games.
I love it. I have that emblazoned in my brain forever, that very specific procession of words in that order. And Daniel, as you were saying, you are an artist, of course. You're obviously GVG's art director. So if anybody out there needs a Twitch overlay or a logo or something made, please do consider throwing this guy a commission or two, because Daniel is one of the most talented artists I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. And you can also see him and Brandon over on our Twitch channel at Good Vibes Arcade multiple times a week, twitch.tv/officialGVG. But with that said, I think that's about it for us today. As a quick reminder, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/GVGaming, where if you just support us at the $1 tier, that gets us into our Discord community, which is the nicest, kindest, most wholesome group of game enthusiasts on the internet, bar none. But of course, we also have a bunch of other tiers you can support us at. Our live audience tier is particularly popular. You can play games with us once a month at our Fight a Founder tier. Lots of cool stuff. Please do check us out. But even if you can't support us on Patreon, if you can just drop a like and a subscribe right here on YouTube, every little bit helps so much. And thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Till we meet again.